right, welcome to the Insurance Stream. I'm your host, Dave Bowling, here with Daniel Summers of Charles String Agency. We have Daniel on because, we're all about promoting the independent insurance agent, inspiring the independent insurance agent, giving you guys the resources that you need to successfully run your agencies. And Daniel's a prime example of what is available. Do you go by Dan or Daniel?
Both. Dan,
Both?
Danny, Daniel, any of them.
All right.
I'll respond to all of them.
All of the above. Cool. So Danny, tell me your story about Charles String Agency, because you started it from scratch. I know the struggle of starting an agency from scratch. I've done that myself. And it's like, how do you get the carriers without the appointments, and how do you, sell the insurance without the carriers? So that's probably struggle number one that every insurance agency faces. You specialize in trucking insurance, right? So that's kind of even more difficult of an animal to. So I'm interested to hear your story. But I want to kind of back up a little bit. Tell me a little bit about, the startup, how you grew it, and then your acquisition.
Yeah. So Daniel Summers, run Charles String. It's technically got like a long name now after the acquisition, but we still kind of go as Charles String. The branding's all there. I got into insurance right at 5 years ago. Helped a friend start like a regular P&C shop, and I was not that big a fan of personal lines, which was kind of like the original goal. The investors in that agency owned a construction company and wanted to like get into insurance. And so I was drifting towards commercial just from the beginning because my background is more B2B sales. And I like, business customers more than regular consumers. Just I'm a very task oriented person. That's my personality. So it's a better match. Nothing against regular consumers. So I did that, and I was drifting more towards B2B, stumbled my way into a trucking policy, and, kind of like fell in love with it. I had a little bit of experience around trucking companies previously, nothing insurance related, but, started digging into it and realized like, wow, this is like a huge world over here. Yeah. It's a small niche, but it's a huge world. And it's
made in it too.
It's really demanding, which I think is why a lot of agents stay away from it. It's demanding. There's, the customers aren't the easiest to deal with, but I like a challenge. Right. Yeah. So that happened. I started selling a lot of trucking accounts, kind of dove in head first and was just trying to like consume and learn as much as possible. I did a ton of networking, found a few underwriters that like helped explain things to me, because there's not a lot of info out there, right? Like there's just not a lot about how the inner workings of truck insurance go down. You've got direct carriers, then you've got the MGAs, and good luck figuring it out. Right. I learned as much as I could for like 2 years, and then it was time to go out on my own. So, I really wanted to stay on with my buddy, and still really good friends with him, but his investors didn't really want to give up equity. And so I was just like, all right, well, I'm writing like a huge chunk of this book, like 85% of it. I'll see you guys later. So jumped out, didn't take any customers or anything with me. I didn't have a non-compete, but I still didn't take any customers. I just wanted to like start fresh, start clean, and do it my way. End to end, like have control over all of it. And I almost went broke like really fast. Yeah. It's hard to start generating customers, right? Prospects and then customers. Yeah. And I had a lead source kind of lined up, but it wasn't that great. And just kind of out of frustration, there was this one guy named Greg. I always go back to Greg. Guy got on the phone looking for truck insurance, had talked to other friends in trucking, and learned a whole lot of like misinformation, or incomplete information is probably best to say. And it was just like, hey, my friend did this, I want to do that. And it's like, well, that's great for your friend who lives in another state and is doing completely different operations. By no means does any of that apply to you and what you're trying to do in this other state, different types of equipment, all this. It's like,
so you were in a different state than where your friend had been when you were.
No, where his friend had been. He was talking to someone.
Okay.
Started a trucking company.
Got it.
And so I got really frustrated. I like Greg. He was cool. And I talked to him a couple of times. I was trying to close this deal with him. And so I started recording YouTube videos just informational, like about how truck insurance works. And, if you're starting a trucking company, like kind of step-by-step things to do, really all centered around insurance. And that backfired on me. The idea was I'd get calls from our lead source and I'd push them to the YouTube channel, but then it flipped. And I started getting calls from people watching YouTube videos, which then got shared around like some other social media, Facebook groups, all that. And it blew up super fast. So I got monetized in 61 days, which is kind of nuts on YouTube.
Right.
And then I sold like, I don't know, a little over 800,000 in premium, like the second or third month after starting the YouTube channel.
So in 1 month, you sold between 600 and 800,000 premium.
It was like 801 or something thousand
in a month.
In 1 month. Yeah. I didn't sleep much.
I bet you didn't.
I had to set up
called Viva Virtual Assistants. They would have helped you out with getting some of that non-revenue task generating stuff going on. Anyway, go ahead.
I had set up a website and kind of built it on my own, just WordPress based website, so I could have a quote form. And I modeled the quote forms. I had Progressive and National General for appointments, and I was only in 3 states. I was in North, South Carolina, and Georgia. And obviously, YouTube channel is going to be worldwide, nationwide as far as insurance goes. So I had another agency reach out to me. It was like, hey, if you're getting leads, like we could set up a referral deal. And I did that. And it's been a great relationship since, because there was a bunch of states I wasn't licensed in yet. So I was getting leads and I just kick them to them.
How many are you licensed in now?
All of them, but Hawaii. Well, I'm licensed in Hawaii, but we're not doing business there. There's not a lot of interstate trucking.
Hawaii and Alaska are rough. I mean, maybe in trucking, Alaska is good for you, but
we've got Alaska because we plan on getting into Canada and Mexico here soon.
Sure. Really?
Yep. Yeah. There's a whole big thing around like reshoring and nearshoring for manufacturing. So there's a lot of,
You like puzzles, don't you?
Yeah. I can do
together a lot of puzzles as a kid.
I can do a word find puzzle in like 30 seconds. But so that'll happen, and it took off, and I hired 2 agents like back to back, which is a really good strategy because they don't always make it, right? If you hire 2 and you lose, or like if you hire 1 and lose 1, now you have more work.
Back to zero. Yeah, we used to hire like 3 or 4 at a time when we won 1 because
that's really hard when you're like, if you had, this is gonna sound crazy. I had $11,000 set aside to start my agency.
Yeah.
That's stupid. No one should do that.
I had $0,000 set aside to start my first agency. Yeah, I get you. We moved one of my kids into another. So our older daughter, we moved into a bedroom with our younger daughter, got them bunk beds in there, and then we converted her old bedroom into our first office, and we ran out of there for about a year, probably. And yeah, I mean, it's you're driving to sign a policy to come back and pay your internet bill, right? Like, I mean, so we started off. We were in Olympia, Washington. Anybody that pulls up a map of Washington State, you'll see that, but this is true story. We specialize in construction contractors, right? So we're in Olympia, and I got a call from a guy. Actually, I think it was like used to be NetQuote. Now it's like insurancequotes.com or something like that. We bought some. This is not a promo for them, but we bought leads from there, and they did okay. They weren't like the amazing end all be all, like I'm going to grow my agency based on it. Probably similar to what you found in your lead generating efforts. They're okay. This they'll pay for themselves usually, but we drove to I think it was Yakima. Yeah, we drove to Yakima, which was like 2.5 hours away, to get a $350 down payment to turn around, drive all the way back, and then pay our internet bill to keep the internet on for the next. I mean, it was nuts. Like starting that agency. I told my wife, I was like, I am so glad we're young when we're doing this, because I'm never doing this again. And since then we've started lots of stuff. So that was a total lie. Because once you do it, like, and then the lay of the land, it becomes much easier the next time around to do things and be successful at them, because people, connections, ins and outs of things. Like, I mean, you have more resources behind you, not necessarily financially, although that helps too. But you when you're doing it 2.0 or 3.0 or 4.0, now you've got a whole different world of viewpoints and knowledge that you're operating on. It makes life much, much easier. But To all the scratch agencies out there firing up for the first time, Daniel and Abe, feel your pain.
Yeah. Grind.
Do it. Yeah. There's no easy way around it. Sweat.
Every doubt you have, ignore it.
Yeah. You don't really have any money. Just invest it back in the company. And then life becomes really good at some point in time. How long did it take for life to become really good for you?
I sold the first policy December 5th, 2020. And then things got pretty good the following summer.
Okay. So like 6 months.
Yeah. It was like, I was able to get some rest after the first year though. Like it's 6 months. I wasn't worried about the bills anymore. Right. I was worried about keeping up with the business. And by the end of the 2021, I think we're at like 3.7 million in the book. And we had just hired like our first CSR. And then I was like able to not really like take a step back or anything like that, but it was just like, I can breathe now and, sleep more than 4 hours and not feel bad about it.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we kept on going. We hired more people. And then at the end of last year, I was kind of at this crossroads where it was like, what do I do next? Right. Like I've made this thing super efficient. Like it's pretty impressive. We've got like a bunch of plugins to the website so we can collect data. I built the quote form around the other
carriers. Do all your own coding or do you hire third-party coders?
Well, now since the acquisition, we have a development team from our parent company. So that's
who acquired you?
LogRock.
LogRock.
LogRock. Yeah.
They do a lot of acquisitions, or they like kind of niche?
Newer, like technically younger than us. They do. We're their only acquisition so far.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds like it was a good idea. Whoever had it. Did you approach them, or they approach you?
We actually went to a conference, myself and the CEO of LogRock. We met at the end of a dinner table that we were invited to by another like InsurTech at this conference. And we just got to talking about our businesses, and they were selling compliance software for trucking companies. And I was talking about how I do this YouTube channel and I try and offer like as many free resources as possible just to like attract people. And like also, so not only does it attract people, but it also like, if I know the best vendors for a trucking company to get, especially like getting started or starting to go,
ones that aren't going to rip you off, affordable.
They're not going to rip them off. They're not going to put them out of business. I'm not going to have chargebacks and like canceled policies, right? Like our success rate of new ventures is double the average. It's pretty nuts. And our loss ratios are really good, even though like that's hard to say because we haven't been in business that long. But I'll check back in on that one. It looks good so far because
so far so good, yeah.
With the YouTube channel, and that's been our main thing ever since. I cut off the referral partner once the YouTube channel started, like taking up all of my time. I literally called the referral partner. I was just like, look, I love what you guys have been doing for me, but I can't take anymore. Like, I've got too much coming over here, and there's no splits on this. There's no like, like it's better quality, leads than customers. So because they're self-educating, like you're targeting people that are trying to learn about like what to do, and you get to shape those into your customers. Right. So like, in trucking, there's this thing where like selling to fleets is kind of hard, and you gotta have an in for that. And it's like, that's cool. So there's less fleets, like consider the whole trucking market, like this big funnel. There's tons of new ventures, right? There's, a good bit of sophomores, and there's very few big, huge fleets, right? So everyone's fighting over these big, huge fleets. And it's like, well, that's cool, but like I could just grow new ventures.
Right.
And sophomores, like, take a new company, help them get started, take a, sophomore, smaller company and help them grow. And then like our churn and everything is like super low. We don't lose much to other agencies, like hardly at all. Like the second year in business, we lost 4 customers.
Wow.
To competitors. Yeah. Yeah.
What advice would, well, and I want to, don't let me forget about your acquisition, because I want to talk about that. But what advice would you give somebody out there struggling to start a new agency, or maybe they've got an agency and it's just kind of been stagnant for a while? Like what would you say? Because we talk about that. What you've talked about here on this podcast, we talk about that on, I don't know if you listen to the Insurance Stream regularly, but we talk about that all the time, is creating an ecosystem for your clients to operate in, which is exactly what you've done. And it's exactly what we see people who are growing virally like you what we see them doing. They create a resource warehouse for whoever their target customer is. We had one guy on the podcast a while back. Actually, he lives a few miles away from me. He targets high-end homeowners. And he he does these educational videos on protecting assets, jewelry, fine art, furs, these different things that these people have. They're curious about.
Exclusion or need. Yeah, I could see where that's really beneficial.
For sure. And, so he creates these educational videos and that's what we talked about. So, barring that piece of advice, I mean, but because that's kind of similar to what you're doing. What would you say to somebody that's getting out there? Maybe they're stagnant and they've been in business for a while. Maybe they're, having different hard times. What's your advice to them?
All right. I feel like the trucking niche kind of sets all this up easy for me to come in and offer free resources, right? And resources could be just a checklist of things you need to do, compliance wise, hiring drivers, maintaining vehicles, vendors that are really good, fuel cards, your ELDs, the telematics stuff. All that's kind of like a layup, right? Being in trucking. And I'm super focused on, I actually started a trucking company just to learn the pain points, right? Which is kind of nuts, but I did that just because I want to fully experience it and know what to watch out for, essentially, to be a better guide to them, to our insurance customers.
You still own the company?
Yeah, still today. I still own it. I'm shutting it down though, because I just don't have time for it anymore.
Yeah.
Yep. But no, I think the biggest message are the most important things. There's a few that I would tell anyone that's starting an agency or that stagnant stage where they want to make it to the next level is your message, everything you say more than once. If you have a repetitive conversation with lots of people, that should be content, right? Yeah. Make a video. It doesn't have to be on YouTube and public. You could use Loom. So you have an internal, little library of videos you can easily send to people to share. And that segues into time, right? Time management is so important. If you're repeating yourself over and over again with people, right? You're losing, that's time you could have in a video. You send it to somebody, you have somewhere that they could find it. All these things are fairly easy to put together. And then, our process, onboarding new customers, we're normally past, if you think of the sales process where you have introductions and greetings and, winning people over, breaking down barriers and breaking the ice and winning trust, gaining trust, all that. We're past all that by the first time we talk to somebody, we're already past that because they watched our YouTube videos. So we're going straight into the tasks, back to the task oriented thing. So, and they've normally just recently we've started to switch where we're not requiring people to do quotes online. We'll help them through it over the phone. That's just because we hired more people. But before they had to schedule a call and they had to submit quotes online or else we wouldn't talk to them. We would never take info for a quote over the phone because that's a huge waste of time. And if an insured, a prospect can't fill out a quote form online, that's probably not a customer you want, right? If you want to save the most time and get better customers,
first you have to have the lead flow necessary to do that, which is
been very fortunate. So I should practice
content. Yeah, for sure. Tell me about your acquisition. I mean, obviously some of those details are probably under an NDA, but what was the setup like? What was it like getting that direct deposit when it's like Monopoly money a little bit, right? You see it go in, it's just weird. But so tell me about the acquisition. Tell me about the day you got paid. Tell me as much as you can without, diving into a bunch of NDA details about your accounts and stuff like that, because this is going to be a huge thing coming up right now, right? Some people are slowing down acquisitions while others are doubling down and ramping up. And the agency valuations are fluctuating wildly right now. It's kind of a weird time in the country's history in general. But we got used to this certain cadence over the last, several years with agency acquisitions, and that's changing. But the premise of these deals is not really changing, right? Because it sounds like yours is like the classic where it's I can go in, I can get more resources, I can fuel more growth, I can make this thing bigger, faster, better, and have a partner. And so it's the calculation for people like you is I'm going to get a check today. I'm going to probably, and I'm not, I'm assuming a lot about your deal here, but I'm probably going to be getting some incentive-based payouts with multiples attached to them. So if I exceed those, now I'm making all sorts of more money than I would have. You know what I mean? Like the calculation is over the next many, many years or several years that you're going to make way more by partnering this than by doing it by yourself and owning the agency by yourself. Is that the calculation you made?
Fairly similar, right? So yeah, I got a nice evaluation. It was EBITDA it was a single digit multiplier, but it was pretty close to double digits. So that was nice.
Sweet. Take
that
all day long.
Yeah, right. And for a 2-year-old company, yeah. All right, let me back up before that though. So at the beginning of 22, the IA, the Independent Insurance Association of North Carolina hosted this course.
Is that where you're at, North Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been meaning to ask you. Go ahead. Sorry.
They hosted this course on mergers and acquisitions, and I go to this. I drive 2 hours to Raleigh to go to this one day, and I go sit down in the room, and it's primarily over 50, 60-year-olds in there, right? Like everyone looking to offload their agency and figure out how to set up to do that and like get the most out of it. There was a few, like you could tell, middle-aged people that were looking to sell the agency they probably just inherited. And then there was me, and I just finished our first year in business, and they were like, "What the hell are you doing here?" Right. Like, I was like, "Well, I've had quite a few people tell me I should start preparing in case like someone comes with an offer." Yeah. And so I was like, I just want to like put things in place so I'm ahead of that. And I was really glad I went to that class. Right? There's some cool things. Obviously, there's like a bank sponsoring it who does a lot of the M&A like loans and all that, and then there was a consulting firm. Really cool. But I learned some stuff there. And then obviously fast forward a year later, I'd already received 3 other offers, which I didn't really want to go that route because really I wanted to keep my hands in it, right? Like I'm not walking away now. I don't plan on it anytime soon. The whole reason I did this acquisition was to get us to the next level. And that's where we're more integrated software wise.
Has it worked?
So far we're getting there. Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. Right.
It's better than I expected. Like I expected it to take a lot longer, and the pace is just building and building and building.
So it sounds like LogRock has been a great partner.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Shout out to LogRock.
Thanks. Yeah. They're great. I love these guys.
Cool. Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, what else though for that?
Your earnouts, talk about like your incentive base. Cause I mean, a lot of times the way those deals are structured is, like say you were hitting 2 million in revenue, pre-acquisition, right? And so you've got your baseline where it's like, we want to hit at least that figure, for the next year. But if you exceed that figure, we're going to pay you by this multiple for every dollar received over that. Does that sound familiar?
Well, actually, I had an offer like that, right? Yeah. It was a fat offer. It was a bigger multiplier, everything. It was awesome, but I didn't want to go work for him.
Yeah.
So there was like stay on for
right?
Stay on for X amount of years. If you hit these tiers, you get these, and like potentially huge payout, right? But then like I have no control. And I've got to do everything like, I'm just chasing metrics, and I'm not chasing like my actual goals, which is to make truck insurance better, right? Like I believe, and I know that I am directly impacting it at this point, right? And we've got a long ways to go, but we're definitely getting there. No, so like for this acquisition, I got equity in the parent company, and there's a much bigger payout, hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years. So what else? I know like in some of these deals, I don't know, where you like stay on for 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And if you lose X amount of business, you might lose X amount of bonus structure payout, all that. It's pretty much the same in the deal I've got. Like if we don't perform, then, my equity is going to be worthless. Yeah. So, but my goal is still the same prior to the deal. And that's just make this little niche of ours better. So in every way that I can.
For sure. It sounds like is your job 100% content creation now?
It's getting to that. So everything that I built over the past 2 years, and I'm talking, we did the deal in April. So the website, all the automations that I've pieced together, because I'm not a software developer, I've literally just kind of self-taught on, using Zapier and WordPress and a million different plugins to the website to try and gather data points and push things from one system to another. I did all that between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. most nights. And so that now we've got like a professional software development team. We're building our quote form that we have now on the website will still appear on the website, but it'll actually be connected to LogRock software. And that's where we'll take, onboarding to, servicing and maintaining policies. We'll be able to automate a ton of additional things and make future quoting really, really easy. Yeah.
Awesome. So basically your job is to bring the customers forth to Charles String, and then the agents take it from there. Like you're warming up the lead, you're funneling it in, and then they sell the insurance and everything like that. So that's been the setup of your agency.
We brought in like a professional content producer. So she helps me like with scheduling interviews and like all the editing. And we've kind of expanded. So we were just on YouTube. Now we've got an account set up for TikTok. We haven't posted anything on there in a while, but we're about to. Same with like Facebook, Instagram, all the things. Yeah. Expanding the reach there. We just got into a little bit of Google ad type stuff, which is actually pretty cool. But not like just chasing keyword searches, like bringing in the content with it. Yeah. I've stayed away from the paid like AdWords and stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it. You can't clear out like things you don't want, right? But if you can do that and bring in content with it, then you're more likely to get exactly what you want.
100%.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, Daniel, I appreciate. Is there anything that we missed that you feel like would be worthy of adding into the conversation here?
No, I feel like we've done pretty good here.
Pretty good job. And we did it all in less than half an hour, which is impressive because this is quite a story. Daniel, I look forward to, because you've got some stuff rolling with trucking insurance that you're going to be helping out with agents. I look forward to having you back on when that happens. Please reach back out. I appreciate your story. I think it's going to inspire insurance agents out there because it's hard work getting this going. And it's not easy, but as you and I can both attest to, boy, is it worth it when you get to the other side. It's a wild ride, and it's very difficult, and it takes a lot of time and energy and dedication and stick-to-itiveness. But does the payout ever worth it? It's great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
No, and it's like it's your thing. You built it.
100%. Well, Daniel, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to reconnecting when you get this program ready for agents to start easily writing trucking insurance.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.